The star pulsed within a natural rhythm through the station's reinforced viewport. Jake Morrison studied the energy fluctuations that rippled across its surface, each pattern more erratic than the last. No natural stellar body should exhibit such behavior. The containment fluctuations have increased by 30% since our last measurement. The station's chief engineer spoke through a remote channel from his control station as data scrolled across the main display of Jake Morrison's cockpit. The alien's crystalline body structure caught the star's light, refracting it into complex patterns. The effect would have fascinated Jake if the situation weren't so dire. How long since the anomalies began? Jake asked while he studied the sensor readings. 6 standard months. The chief engineer's crystalline form shifted hues with concern. The star's behavior contradicts our understanding of stellar physics. Our best experts remain unable to explain the deterioration. Jake accessed the sensor feeds through his neural interface. The raw data painted a disturbing picture. Energy patterns that violated fundamental laws of space-time. The ancient engine's influence permeated the entire stellar mass. "Show me the engine's primary control interface," Jake said as he sorted through centuries of accumulated data. The display shifted to show a massive structure suspended above the star's photosphere. The engine's architecture bore no resemblance to any known engineering principles. Its very existence challenged modern understanding of technology. "No one has successfully interfaced with the control systems," the chief engineer said while more data filled the screens. "The operating principles exceeded our understanding. We've lost 3 specialist teams attempting to access the core." Lost how? Jake turned from the readings to face the alien. "Disappeared completely." The chief engineer's colors darkened. "The engine security measures remain active despite its deterioration. Our attempts to breach the outer hull triggered consequences." Jake returned his attention to the technical readouts. The engine's power signature contained familiar elements, patterns he recognized from his studies of humanity's golden age. Though even in that time period, they were considered theoretical. His neural interface highlighted suspicious correlations. "I need direct access to the engine," Jake said as he began composing preliminary calculations. "My equipment can bypass the security grid." "Impossible." The chief engineer's crystalline surface rippled with alarm. "The radiation levels within that containment zone exceed safe limits. No organic being could survive exposure. My environmental systems can handle it." Jake activated his suit's diagnostic protocols. "The radiation shielding incorporates recovered technology that operates on similar principles to the engine itself." The chief engineer's colors shifted through patterns. Jake's translator tagged as skepticism. The alien's crystalline body vibrated at frequencies that suggested internal debate. "The council must approve any direct interaction," the chief engineer said after several moments. "Your credentials are impressive, but the risk factors will only increase while we wait." Jake projected current deterioration rates onto the main display. "The containment field grows more unstable by the hour. Its power output has already dropped dramatically enough for blackouts in the local system. That's why I'm here." The data spoke for itself. Energy patterns crawled across the screen, each fluctuation more dangerous than the last. The star's unnatural rhythm pulsed through the viewport, a constant reminder of their deadline. "I will contact the council." The chief engineer's colors stabilized into formal patterns. "Your species has no prior experience with stellar engineering at this scale. My species is more experienced than you know," Jake said, while he refined his calculations. Gold Age human quantum laboratories long ago laid the theoretical groundwork for projects like this. We never constructed one, but we have extensive literature on the subject and numerous small-scale prototypes that worked, though none of them well enough for investors. The chief engineer's crystalline surface registered frequencies Jake's translator couldn't process. The alien's reaction suggested surprise, skepticism, and something else. Concern? Perhaps? Or fear? The Council will want proof of these claims, the chief engineer said as data continued to stream across the displays. The proof is in the mathematics. Jake transmitted a series of equations for his neural interface. Compare the engine's operational patterns to these theoretical models. The correlation exceeds statistical chance. The alien's colors rippled as the calculations appeared on the main screen. Jake watched understanding dawn in the shifting crystalline patterns. The evidence stood irrefutable. Human theoretical work had anticipated the engine's principles centuries ago. I will call for an emergency council session. The chief engineer's voice carried new urgency. Your equipment should be transferred to the containment facility. If the council approves direct access, when they approve, Jake corrected as he began equipment preparations. We don't have time for bureaucratic delays. Kepler 9 Prime isn't the only planet that depends on this engine's output. Through the viewport, the star's unnatural rhythm continued its erratic dance. Whatever forces the ancient engine controlled grew more unstable with each passing moment. Jake's neural interface processed the sensor's data, confirming his worst fears. The containment field wasn't just unstable, it was failing outright. This wouldn't be cutting power to the local planet and stopping energy shipments to neighboring systems. It would result in a nova, killing the entire local planet and every other habitable world within a dozen or so light years. The council's chamber stretched around Jake in a perfect circle. Crystalline beings of various compositions occupied tiered observation platforms, their surfaces refracting light in complex patterns. The chief engineer stood at the central podium, relaying Jake's findings through harmonic frequencies. These theoretical models warrant investigation, one council member's translated voice carried through the chamber, but direct interaction with the engine carries unacceptable risks. The containment field's deterioration poses a greater risk, Jake said, while he projected updated sensor data. My calculations show total failure within 72 hours. The chamber filled with discordant frequencies. As council members processed this information, the crystalline bodies shifted through various spectral patterns, suggesting internal debate through multiple communication channels. Your species lacks experience with stellar engineering, and then the council member observed while examining Jake's credentials. What qualifies you to attempt repairs on technology that has confounded our experts for centuries? Because I recognize its operational principles. Jake transmitted additional equations for his neural interface. The quantum mechanics involved mirror theoretical work from humanity's archives. We developed the math for this type of engineering before we even reached the stars. The council chamber's lighting shifted as members accessed the transmitted data. Jake watched understanding ripple through the crystalline forms as the mathematical correlations became clear. These patterns suggest more than coincidence, the first council member said after several moments of analysis. Yet, you claim humans never constructed such an engine? We understood the theory. Jake studied the engine's latest sensor readings, but we lacked the materials and energy generation capacity to attempt practical application. My best guess is, someone else built this engine, using principles we had only theorized. More harmonic frequencies filled the chamber as council members debated. The chief engineer's colors suggested growing support for Jake's proposal. Your environmental systems, Another council member spoke. You claim they can withstand the containment zone's radiation? The shielding technology operates on similar principles to the engine itself. Jake activated his suit's specifications display. We recovered it from ancient ruins, and I've modified my suit extensively for work with quantum scale anomalies. The council members' colors shifted through analytical patterns. Jake's neural interface tagged their frequencies as indicating intense calculation and risk assessment. The containment field's deterioration accelerates with every moment, Councilman, the chief engineer added while updating the main display. You must reach a decision. Fresh sensor data streamed across the chamber's screens. The star's unnatural pulses had grown more erratic during their debate. Energy patterns suggested increasing instability in the engine's core systems. We will permit a preliminary examination, the council's leader said as the chamber's lighting stabilized. But you must maintain constant communication. Any sign of system rejection, any indication of failure, and you will withdraw immediately. Understood. Jake began transmitting equipment specifications to the chief engineer. I need a secure dock for my ship. Some of my diagnostic tools require careful calibration. Already arranged. The chief engineer's color shifted to operational patterns. Our technical staff awaits your requirements. The council chamber's displays showed Jake's ship approaching the containment facility. The massive structure hung, suspended above the star's churning surface. Ancient technology still functioning after centuries of continuous operation. A question remains, one council member said as the others prepared to adjourn. If humans develop these theoretical principles, it simply makes no sense for there to have been no involvement of theirs in its construction. While it doesn't technically predate humanity's golden age, the timing is rather narrow. That's what concerns me. Jake watched his ship's automated docking sequence. Either someone else discovered the same principles independently, or humanity's role in this technology's development has been deliberately obscured. The council's chamber fell silent. Even their subsonic harmonics ceased as the implications settled through the gathered members. Proceed with your examination, the council leader said after several moments. But be warned, some mysteries may be better left unexplored. Jake's neural interface pinged with official authorization codes as the council's session ended and the view screen feed cut through the chamber's viewports. He watched the star's unstable rhythm continue, its deadly dance. Whatever secrets the engine held, they would have to wait. He had 72 hours to prevent a stellar catastrophe. The questions of who built the engine and why they used human theoretical principles could come later if they survived. Jake's environmental suit hummed as its ancient shielding technology adapted to the containment zone's radiation. The engine's outer hull stretched above him, its surface marked with patterns that bore uncomfortable similarities to human quantum notations. Preliminary scans show no active defense response, the chief engineer said through the comm system, but we're detecting unusual power fluctuations near your position. I see them, Jake said, as the neural interface processed the readings. The patterns suggest some kind of recognition protocol. The engine's security systems are scanning my suit's technology. The metallic surface before him rippled like liquid mercury. Geometric patterns emerged and receded in sequences that tickled the edges of Jake's memory. He had seen mathematics like this before, in archived theoretical papers from humanity's early quantum research. This place is more than just an old Dyson sphere for an unusual intrinsic variable. Energy spike detected. The chief engineer's voice carried new tension. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Wait. Jake studied the evolving patterns. The engine isn't rejecting my presence. It's establishing a connection through my suit's systems. The shielding technology must share a common protocol. They were built by the same people. His neural interface blazed with sudden input as ancient systems synchronized with his equipment. Data streams that had confounded alien scientists for centuries resolved into unrecognizable formats. The engine's outer layer became transparent, revealing impossibly complex machinery beneath. I have access to diagnostics, Jake said whilst his mind raced to process the information. The containment protocols, this can't be right. Explain, the chief engineer demanded. The engine isn't malfunctioning. Jake traced power conduits through layers of quantum machinery. Its systems are responding to some kind of internal stimulus. Something inside the containment field is forcing these changes. Warning signals flashed through his neural interface. Security systems had slept for centuries, suddenly surged with renewed power. Jake's translation protocols struggled to decode streams of emergency data. The radiation levels are increasing, the chief engineer said, with growing alarm. Your suit's shielding is holding, Jake interrupted as he dove deeper into the engine systems. The radiation isn't random. It's a communications protocol. Quantum-level encoding that matches theoretical human designs. Someone's trying to transmit data through the containment field. Encrypted information poured through his neural interface. Each packet bore markers that sent chills through Jake's spine. Signatures that should not exist. That could not exist. Unless a sharp impact shuddered through the engine's hull. Jake's magnetic boots compensated automatically as vibrations rippled across the metallic surface. We have unauthorized ships approaching, the chief engineer reported with urgency. They've breached the outer security perimeter. The weapon systems... Another impact cut the transmission. Jake's neural interface screamed with alerts as the engine's security protocols activated. Ancient defense systems awakened, responding to threats both external and internal. Get me out of here, Jake said as he initiated emergency disconnect procedures. Something's wrong. The engine's responses don't match any containment protocols I've seen. Unable to establish stable lock, the chief engineer's voice crackled through increasing interference. The transport system... The hull underneath Jake's feet transformed from solid metal to quantum uncertainty. His suit's sensors registered reality fluctuations that should have torn him apart. Only the ancient shielding technology kept him intact, as space itself rippled around him. The engine is adapting. Jake forced his words through gritted teeth as his neural interface struggled to maintain connection. It's using my suit's systems to modify its security protocols. The quantum patterns, they're exactly like our theoretical models. Exactly like them. More ships approaching, the chief engineer said through the renewed connection, while sensor data scrolled through Jake's vision. Their energy signatures match known radical elements, the Dimensional Liberation Front. The name triggered recognition in Jake's memory. Fanatics who believe the hearts of variable stars contained a gateway to other realities. This was the only one with any kind of infrastructure around it that could possibly get them to its heart. Their previous attacks had failed against the engine's defenses, but now they planned this. Jake realized as he fought to maintain his position on the hull. They waited for someone with compatible technology to interface with the engine. They're using my connection to alter its protocols. How did they even know? Disconnect, the chief engineer ordered. Break the interface before... The transmission dissolved into static. Through his neural interface, Jake watched in horror as the engine's containment protocols began to shift. The quantum machinery around him hummed with impossible harmonics as ancient systems responded to new commands. and the entire structure shifted into transparent uncertainty, neither real nor unreal. Whoever had built this engine had used human theoretical principles, had known humanity would eventually reach the stars, would eventually find this place, had left protocols that would recognize human technology. But not so they could repair it. The stars' natural rhythm pulls stronger as the engine's systems continue to transform. Jake's neural interface translated fragments of new data, revealing glimpses of the builder's true intentions, the real reason for creating this impossible machine. The engine wasn't failing, it was awakening. Quantum distortions rippled through the engine's hull as more systems awakened. Jake's neural interface struggled to process the torrent of data streaming through his connection. Each new pattern revealed more disturbing implications about the engine's original purpose. Multiple breaches, outer grid. The chief's engineer's voice cut through bursts of static. Attacking this through contain. Lock down all command functions, Jake said, while ancient protocols continued their transformation, hoping his communications could make it out. The engine's accepting external inputs through my connection. They're using it as a backdoor into core systems. The suit's shielding technology pulsed with increasing strain. The radiation levels hadn't risen. They changed frequency, shifted into patterns that suggested deliberate manipulation, rather than random decay. The builders didn't use human principles because they needed them. They wanted us to come here. Jake worked to isolate his neural interface from the engine's quantum systems. This machinery wasn't meant for stellar containment. The containment protocols are a disguise, masking its true function. Warning signals blazed through Jake's vision as the engine's transformation accelerated. Security systems that had guarded the core for centuries now realigned themselves, accepting new operational parameters and instead releasing containment as this already unstable star began to collapse. The cultists knew. Jake accessed deeper levels of the engine's programming. They understood what this machine really is. That's why they waited for human technology to interfere with it. But how? Someone had to have told them. It's the only thing that makes sense. But who? The hull beneath Jake's feet resonated with impossible harmonics. His suit's ancient shielding adapted to each new frequency, proving again the connection between its technology and the engine's systems. Jake can see the star itself changing before his very eyes, and the data he can now access due to his suit's connection confirms it. The star is changing rapidly. This isn't a simple collapse. It's as if the star itself is part of the machine, Jake said, as understanding crystallized in his mind. It's an unnatural rhythm. The containment field. They're not controlling the star, they're using its mass to hold something else. That's what containment means. A sudden surge of power knocked Jake back from the flickering access panel. His magnetic boots fought to maintain contact with the hull, as reality fluctuated around him. Through his neural interface, he watched new data streams emerge from the engine's core. A new transmission from the chief engineer comes through, a moment of sparkling clarity amidst the storm. The cultists have launched some kind of device, reads quantum in nature. It's doing something. The transmission cut off as space itself twisted between Jake and the observation station. His suit's sensors registered distortions that would tear any normal object into tiny pieces. But thanks to its synchronization with the flickering of the entire engine, Jake is safe. At least, for now. Get everyone out of the system! Jake forced the words through waves of quantum interference. He may not be able to hear the chief engineer, but he can use the engine's systems to get a message out. This engine, these systems, They're not meant to contain stellar energy for harvesting, they're meant to direct it into an explosion to destroy something else within. The engine's surface flowed like liquid metal beneath Jake's feet. Ancient machines fulfilled their true purpose, as centuries of deception fell away. What emerged bore no resemblance to any known technology. The star's mass creates gravitational interference, Jake transmitted to one-sided silence as his neural interface decoded more builder data. It masks quantum structures that would attract attention. The engine doesn't power the star, it uses the star's gravity to maintain dimensional separation from. Another shift throws him off his feet. He phases through a wall as it flickers and slams into the opposite wall of the next room over. It takes him a bit to recover from the impact and continue his transmission. From what exists between dimensions, Jake accessed the last encrypted data streams. The builders found something else in the quantum void, something that knows them back. They built this engine, used an entire star to power it, just to keep that thing from finding a way through. New energy patterns erupted from the radical ship's quantum device. Jake watched in horror as their frequencies matched the engine's dimensional protocols. They hadn't come to destroy the machine, they'd come to turn the cage into a key. The builder's warnings, Jake transmitted as his neural interface began emergency disconnect procedures. They left messages encoded in quantum strings, warnings about what happens if the barriers fail. The engine's surface pulsed with otherworldly light as ancient systems accepted their new instructions. Jake felt reality twist around him as dimensional barriers began to fade. The builders had known humanity would eventually find this place, had used human theoretical principles to ensure compatibility, but not to maintain systems. What else could they have intended for us? Jake's neural interface registered new quantum frequencies as the engine's transformation accelerated. Deep within its core, systems that had slept for centuries awakened to their original purpose. The builders' emergency protocols unfolded with terrible precision. Each activated system revealed more about the true nature of their quantum prison. The quantum keys respond to my genetic pattern. Jake accessed the emergency shutdown systems, but the builders left a warning about the shutdown sequence, a stellar mass quantum engine that can't simply be switched off. The star's rhythm changed, its pulses taking on harmonic patterns that suggested conscious direction. Energy flowed through dimensions that shouldn't exist, creating ripples in space-time itself. The quantum distortion spread outward, affecting the very fabric of local space. Jake studied the builder warnings with growing horror. The encrypted data revealed cascading effects that would follow a full shutdown, quantum shockwaves that would tear reality apart across 12 light years. The mathematics proved the destruction would be absolute, converting matter itself into quantum uncertainty. The shutdown sequence wasn't designed to destroy the engine. It would use the star's mass to generate a quantum barrier surge. The resulting gravitational collapse would create a permanent dimensional seal, cutting off this region of space from the quantum void forever. A 12 light-year sphere of existence sacrificed to create an impenetrable wall between realities. The builders had determined that only the focused energy of an entire stellar collapse, properly channeled through quantum machinery, could generate enough dimensional force to permanently close the breach their prisoner kept trying to create. His neural interface decoded new segments of builder data. Technical schematics revealed why they would make such a thing. The engine didn't just contain its prisoner, it actively suppressed its ability to perceive normal space. Without that suppression, its mere awareness would collapse probability functions across entire sectors, permanently disable all quantum technologies at a minimum, already crippling nearly all advanced technologies and locking everyone to whatever solar system they happen to be in. Entire planets would starve. The radical ships adjusted their formation, aligning quantum resonators with terrible precision. Each vessel generated frequencies that harmonized with the engine's core systems. Their device wouldn't just disable the containment field, it would provide a focal point for whatever waited in the quantum void. Jake's suit shields registered new frequencies as the engine's transformation neared completion. The ancient technology adapted to each and every shift, maintaining the cohesion of the engine's structure even as the space around it fluctuated and shifted and tossed Jake around like a rag doll. The engine's surface flowed with impossible energies as Jake accessed the final shutdown protocols. Each line of code contained embedded warnings about the cost of failure. The builders had created mathematical proofs demonstrating how reality itself would unravel if their prisoner escaped its quantum cage. Their calculations showed dimensional collapse spreading at light speed, converting everything it touched into quantum probability states, which would immediately collapse in ways not amendable to reality as we know it. It would convert all of space into something other. Through quantum interference, Jake watched the radical ships complete their alignment. Their resonator frequencies matched patterns in the builder warnings, the exact harmonics needed to destabilize dimensional barriers. In their blind search for enlightenment, they had somehow stumbled upon the precise method to end existence itself. New data streams poured through Jake's neural interface as more builder systems activated. The quantum keys required more than simple genetic authentication. They needed conscious, human acceptance of the consequences. The builders had ensured that humanity would fully understand the choice they faced: utter annihilation of reality as we know it, should the prisoner ever escape, or the sacrifice of an entire 12 light-year radius sector. The planets here were all built atop ancient ruins, populous by any standard likely for as long as this engine has existed. Even when it was built, the cost of activating it early would have been steep. Jake's hand moved towards the authentication panel as time ran out. The panel's surface rippled with quantum energies as it awaited his decision. Through his neural interface, he watched the radical ship's device achieve quantum synchronization. They thought they were opening a door to enlightenment. They had no idea they were about to delete themselves from reality. In the space between seconds, Jake understood why the builders had chose humanity as their successors. Only a species that had theorized these quantum principles would truly comprehend what failure would mean, truly understand the weight of the decision, and possibly be capable of finding some other way. But it was too late for alternatives now. Jake's palm struck the authentication panel as the radical ship's device reached full power. Quantum energy surged through his suit's ancient shielding as the engine recognized his genetic pattern. Emergency protocols activated with devastating precision. "Core systems accepting shutdown commands," Jake said through failing comm channels. He didn't even know if anyone could hear him at this point. The remote control station is far too close to survive fluctuations of this magnitude. "We've got 15 minutes before total stellar collapse. Get everyone out, now!" The engine's surface became truly unstable now, even its arcane construction unable to withstand the fury of a dying star and a hole in space-time combined. The shutdown sequence had begun, but the radical ship's device complicated the builder's calculations. "This is wrong," Jake accessed deeper shutdown protocols. "The resonators are accelerating the dimensional breakdown. We can't wait for a standard shutdown. The star has to collapse now." But it was too late. The protocol was designed to be final. Once begun, it cannot be overridden. The star and everything within 12 light years is already doomed. But at this rate, the containment field will collapse first, and the entity on the other side will escape. The builder's warnings had mentioned emergency alternatives, failsafe protocols meant for worst-case scenarios. This certainly classified. His neural interface decoded authentication requirements for procedures the builders had hoped would never be necessary. There might be another way, Jake said as core programming scrolled through his mind, hoping that anyone listening might record his words, so that history would remember this tragedy. I need to reach the physical interface, the primary control node. Jake began moving across the uncertain surface. My shields will hold. They have to. The radical ships realigned their formation as Jake approached the control node access, entering into a pattern of maximum exposure. They truly believed they were about to embrace some new higher form of existence. Reality thinned around their device as it poured impossible energies into the engine's quantum matrix. Jake reached the access point. Quantum energies that should have torn him apart flowed around his suit's shields. The ancient technology proved its worth with each impossible step. The controlled node chamber opened before him. At its center, a quantum interface pulsed with otherworldly light. The builders had created this place to channel the focused power of an entire star, to forever seal something that should never have been found. Jake accessed the quantum interface, his neural link synchronized with systems that operated beyond normal physics. The builders had left one final option, a way to trigger instant stellar collapse, but the cost. Space itself is about to rip apart. Jake entered the authentication sequence. We're out of time. Whatever's trapped in there, it's already affecting local space. The barriers are breaking down. I have to trigger a manual instant detonation. Warning messages flooded Jake's neural interface as he initiated the emergency protocol. The builders had understood what this option meant, had left calculations proving there was no other way if the prisoner threatened freedom. The only thing left, Jake said, while the interface accepted his commands. A controlled collapse would seal the breach, but an uncontrolled one. The builders hadn't just left humanity the keys to a prison. They had left instructions for the ultimate contingency. If they couldn't seal the breach, they would make this region of space so quantum unstable that nothing could exist here, not even something from between dimensions. Clear the system, Jake transmitted as the interface accepted confirmation. I'm about to turn this entire sector into a quantum dead zone. Anything caught in the effect won't just die, it will never have existed at all. The radical ship's device reached peak output. Reality bent around them as dimensional barriers began to fail. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had pumped all the energy needed for an uncontrolled cascade into the engine. His hand moved to the control as space itself began to unravel. Energy surged through the quantum interface as Jake entered the command sequence. Reality fluctuated around him, while ancient machinery prepared to tear a star apart at the quantum level. The builder's emergency protocols activated with mathematical precision. Core matrix destabilization in progress, Jake transmitted through deteriorating comm channels. Quantum cascade initiates in 3 minutes. I hope to God everyone got out. The engine's machinery resonated with mounting power. Each activated system pushed local space further from normal physics. Jake's suit shields adapted to the quantum changing frequencies that rippled outward from the core, but he knew they would fail soon too. Through his neural interface, Jake monitored the radical ship's device. Oddly calm in a swirling storm, the dimensional barriers between normal space and quantum void grew dangerously thin. Then they snapped, like broken twigs. The quantum resonators ripped through the walls that had contained the engine's prisoner for centuries. In his very mind, Jake sensed an alien awareness pressing against the fragmenting barriers of normal space. He pushed deeper into the engine's systems, fighting through layers of builder security. The quantum cascade needed more power, enough to erase this entire region from existence. Something reached through the dimensional tears, not physical matter, nothing so simple. Raw probability collapsed around points of contact, where the prisoner touched normal space, and not in ways that are all predictable. Hallucinations, images, impossible shapes and geometries. The dull darkness of space warped as the light of the star bent along contradictory liminal spatial topography, like glitter in the rolling waves of a sea storm. Diverting auxiliary power to the cascade initiators. Jake forced the words through gritted teeth as quantum forces battered his suit's shields. The engine's prisoner is already affecting local space. I have to trigger total quantum collapse before it fully manifests. I wasn't using the artificial gravity much anyways, and my suit has its own AC. His neural interface screamed with alerts as more systems overloaded. The builders had left humanity the keys to their engine because they knew this moment might come. Knew a day would come when passive containment became impossible, and any hope of finding a better solution died. New sensor data cut through the quantum interference. The radical ships hung suspended in space, caught in probability fields that shouldn't exist. The device poured energy into dimensional breaches that widened with each passing second. They realized too late their mistake. Jake diverted more power to the cascade sequence. His suit's shields flickered as they fought to maintain coherent space around him through the quantum interface. He felt the engine systems strain toward the critical point. Reality rippled outward from the dimensional tears. Normal space curved around points, while something impossibly vast pressed against the barriers between worlds. He could almost see the outline of some impossibly vast existence, carved out from the warping of the light of distant stars, as if a black hole had come alive. Through this fluctuation, he somehow managed to catch a glimpse of the FTL plums of distant evacuation vessels. At least there would be survivors. Final override sequence accepted. 100% power diverted. Jake transmitted to any receivers still functioning. Quantum cascade initiates in 60 seconds. Anyone still in the system? I'm sorry. The radical ships dissolved into quantum uncertainty as probability fields consumed them. The device continued to power the dimensional breaches, caught in automated sequences they could no longer control, and strangely, unaffected by the quantum fluctuations, as if whatever beyond that barrier knew it was useful to its purpose. Jake felt the prisoner's awareness turn toward him through the neural interface connection. Ancient machinery translated impossible concepts into warnings his mind could process. The builders glimpsed into the void between voids, and that void stared back, and now it's noticed him. But it was too late for it. Reality itself would tear apart, converting this region of space into a quantum dead zone, where literally nothing could exist. Not even space itself, not even something between dimensions. The prisoner pressed harder against weakening dimensional barriers, sensing its impeding demise. Probability collapsed around each point of contact, converting normal space into quantum uncertainty, hastening its own downfall. The builders had sealed it away with an entire star's worth of power. Now Jake is ensured it will never escape. He understood now why the builders chose humanity. It wasn't just because humanity developed the principles. Somehow, they knew that only a human would know which decision to make. If you ask Jake, it wasn't really much of a choice. Perhaps that is exactly why they chose humanity. 30 seconds remained until cascade initiation. The quantum interface pulsed with energies that defied physics. His suit shields adapted to each new frequency, but the latency of the adaptations worsened. He felt his stomach churn as conflicting forces pushed, pulled, stretched, and shrunk him asymmetrically. It's a miracle he kept his lunch, let alone still breathed. The prisoner's awareness pressed against his neural connection. Concepts that human minds were never meant to process floated through builder translation protocols. It recognized what he intended, understood that he would destroy an entire region of space to prevent its emergence. Jake felt its alien attention focus fully upon him as the quantum cascade reached an initiation point. The builders had faced the same scrutiny and had chosen to seal it away rather than let it fully manifest. But even in sealing it, they left open the possibility of a better resolution. The faint chance that someone might find a way to communicate, or else seal the crack in a safer manner. Now humanity's involuntary representative faced the same alien awareness, the same desperate solution. The quantum cascade spread outward from the engine's core in precise mathematical waves. Normal space collapsed into uncertain states as the builder's machinery channeled stellar power into calculated destruction. Jake's suit shields vibrated against forces that reduced matter to probability. Data streams poured through Jake's neural interface as he monitored the cascade's effect. Matter dissolved into probability states that could never resolve. The entire region would be stuck in a permanent state of uncertainty. Nothing would exist. Nothing could exist, because nothing ever has. Not here, not anymore. The builder's calculations had predicted this with perfect accuracy. Their final showdown now made reality itself uninhabitable. The prisoner resisted. Its vast awareness pressed against weakening points in space-time, attempting to force manifestation. But each attempt dissolved into the spreading quantum uncertainty, ever-shifting mathematical functions replacing physical laws. Practice becoming theory, and theory becoming meaningless, blathering gibber. Jake confirmed the expansion of the cascade. The bubble of safety his suit produced had shrunk considerably. With each minor fluctuation, it lost more and more space to the cascade. He could see the barrier, the exact spot where his suit kept the construction of an engine, now destroyed, intact, and the infinite, churning nothing behind. The radical ships were long gone, dissolved into nothing by their own hubris, but their device yet remained. The entity was protecting it, keeping it on, perhaps believing it might somehow be saved by it. Jake studied the cascade's progression through the engine's sensors. He spoke again, but there was no one left to listen. The reaction has achieved critical mass. This region of space will never support normal matter again. The prisoner's alien attention focused through Jake's neural interface. It recognized what his actions meant, that he would convert an entire sector of space into mathematical abstraction to ensure its containment. It railed against him, tried to push into his mind, and, if nothing else, take him if it could not have reality. But even this was too much for it. It could not reach through the cascade to touch, only to hear, to listen, to watch, as it always had. Stars, planets, and space itself broke down into probability waves that could never collapse into solid form. In the style of Descartes, reality forgot how to be. Alien thoughts pressed against Jake's mind as the prisoner tried to comprehend. It did not understand why. Why would they seal it? Why would they destroy it? What was so wrong about its existence? His suit shields flickered and failed. The ancient technology had preserved its existence long enough to complete the cascade, but now even it would dissolve into quantum probability, and Jake along with it. The engine's machinery transmitted final readings as space failed around it. An entire region transformed into a quantum dead zone, a prison made of mathematical uncertainty where nothing could manifest. Jake felt his consciousness fade as reality dissolved. The prisoner's vast awareness withdrew from space it could never inhabit. In his last moments of existence, he understood why the builders had trusted humanity with their engine. They knew that humans would pay any price to protect existence itself, even if that price was existence itself.